Well, good evening to everyone. And now, if you wish, you can put your cameras on, just so that it's a more engaging maybe for you. It's not, again, it's not like a relaxation sessions that we do. That if you feel comfortable, just have your, because it's sometimes it's easier for you as the participants to be able to engage and to ask questions or whatever, because that's what I want you to do. I want you to be able to be free to, to throw in at any stage. Don't feel that you're interrupting. A lot of the time, in my own experience, it's better to ask the questions while they're live, while you're thinking of them, because a lot of people can just forget. So look. So whenever you have any questions, just please jump in, and I'll just carry on and just ramble on, because what I want for you today is again just to, as part of this series of masterclasses, where we're giving you information, more information sometimes based on what you've already experienced from Katrina or myself, but also to give you extra knowledge, to give you extra experience, so that again it'll just deepen and widen your own experience and knowledge of hypnosis. Tonight's masterclass is focusing on on stage hypnosis and the difference between kind of what stage, because a lot of people have asked us over the last few months about kind of, well, what really is stage hypnosis and how it compares to therapeutic hypnosis, which is what most people will have experienced. Now, for those who can't attend, and we will be sending out the recording anyway, so you'll get all of this in the feedback. So what I want you to really just really get cracking on it is what is hypnosis in itself. And a lot of people have the misconceptions that hypnosis is like a power that somebody else has over them. And the reality is that there is no superpower, there is no magic involved. That hypnosis in itself is just a process of learning. It's a process of actually learning how to live in the world that you're living in. That it's characterized by a lot of the time by the ability to learn things quickly. Okay, because when we were young, when we were children, when we were in those formative years where we were able to learn so much so quickly, like for example, we learned how to walk, we learned how to talk, we learned how to interact with society, we learned so many things so quickly, and it was in that stage when we were young that we were able to kind of pick all these things up, almost like kind of like a sponge, like a Hoover, being able to pick up so much information. And when they put these ECGs on children, like they're picking up the theta brainwaves, and it's the theta brainwaves that actually allow them to absorb so much so quickly. Now, hypnosis is also characterized by these theta brainwaves. So it means that even as adults, when we're actually in the state of hypnosis, we're actually in a place of where we can actually learn a lot very quickly. Now, all that means is that we're like in the therapy room, all we're doing is actually to change a storyline. It's to change a belief system that have kept us locked into either a problem or into behaviors that that haven't actually served us. So alongside hypnosis is the word trance. And trance, again, people kind of think that, well, trance and hypnosis are the same thing. Well, they're not. Trance is a very different state, although they do work very well together. Trance is just a focused attention. Okay, and to give you an example of what trance would be like, is like a daydream. Okay, it's like if you're in a daydream, and where you're just kind of focused on a particular thing, or just in general, or it's where you're kind of taking away some of the things that you can focus on. That's all. And it means that it can be a very light trance, which means that you're still very conscious of a lot of things, or a very deep trance where you're actually focused on maybe one or two things only. It is the same as when if you're reading a book or watching a film and you get completely engrossed in it. And that's what trance is. It is nothing other than just a state of conscious awareness. That's all. And you can kind of come out of a trance and come back into it. You can, if you're studying, you're in a trance, and then you can just take a break. So it's very, very adaptable. It's very, very changeable. So it's when we can use both together. It's when we now can focus attention onto something that's, kind of very focused. Now we can actually, and then we can use hypnosis then to either to make change happen, or to teach a new way, or to adapt. And it means that, while do we need trance for hypnosis to work? Absolutely not. Do we need hypnosis if you're in trance? Absolutely not. And the example of that is that advertising today is the biggest form of hypnosis. Okay, advertising is, and when we're watching advertising, we don't have our eyes closed. We don't need to be asleep. We don't need to be in a trance. We can just get on with your own daily life. And it's the advertising, while it's not kind of like in a therapy room where you're kind of where you're really focused on something, it's so general. It's like a drip feed. It's like that gentle, that small pieces at a time. It's a drip feed so that the advertisers are looking to influence. They can't make you do anything, but they can influence us. And that's where advertising is actually kind of at its best. And there's a reason why it costs so much to advertise. And it's because it's so effective. So even in advertising, they know how important it is and how effective it is. Because how many of us have ever bought things that we don't want? How many times have we bought things that we've never used? Whether it's clothes, or whether it's kind of tools or keep fit equipment that we buy and then we never use them. And it's only because we've been influenced by the salespeople, by the advertising. And that's all it is. It's not particularly malicious. It's not that it's that it's evil. It's just a way that people have of actually kind of getting you to do something that they want. That's all. Okay. In the therapeutic room, the difference is that what we're doing is we're now trying to get you to do what you do want, to erase all of those beliefs, to erase all of the misconceptions that you've either picked up along the way or that you were told when you were young. Because in the belief, even the belief that, kind of that Santa Claus, and a lot of us believed in Santa Claus. Okay. It was, again, that was a form of hypnosis. We believed it and we acted as if it was real. Okay. When we got to the age of 10 or 12 or whatever age it was, that it was when our logical brain started kicking in and it actually started making sense. And when it stopped making sense, well, we just stopped believing. Okay. And that is the same when we buy something that we don't need, when we realize we shouldn't have bought it. It's what they call the buyer's remorse, where they've actually done something that, and again, you can't go back on it, but this is all we're doing. And in the therapy room, that's all we're looking to do, is actually bring you to that level where you can now start making those decisions and making those conscious decisions so that you start doing what you do want to do. Okay. Now, when we have a problem, when people have a problem, okay, it's something that they get to see. It's something that they get to believe in. They believe it's real, which in a sense is what hypnosis is. It's being able to, again, just see something that's not there. Now, when it comes to stage hypnosis, now people often ask, like, is it real? Is it people just getting up? Is it volunteers that are there pretending and just going along with the flow? But it's absolutely real. And because in that hypnosis, it creates a heightened state of focus, but it opens up their suggestibility. And the volunteers that get up, they actually they actually experience what you're seeing. Okay, it is a genuine response. But it's also that they're choosing to get up. You cannot be, again, go into hypnosis if you don't want to. Okay, it has to have a willing participant. Okay, and the hypnosis, now in advertising, it's, well, you're not a willing participant, but in stage hypnosis and therapeutic hypnosis, you have to be a willing participant. Which is why, like, if people are coming along and they don't want therapy, they don't want to get better, well, can't make it happen. Okay, it has to have that two-way relationship. Okay, so when, like, in a stage hypnosis where and a lot of people have either seen a show or they've seen it on television or whatever, and it's where the participants on the stage actually get to almost like see something that's not there, like a leprechaun or like a cat or like something else, and they act as if there is something there, and it's genuine. And in the very same way that in the therapy room, when somebody has a problem, they actually are seeing something that's not there. It's something that's not real. And not only that, but they're actually seeing it as bigger than it actually is. Okay, they exaggerate the problem. And so in the therapy room, what we're doing is actually dehypnotizing. We're bringing it from being a problem, which is actually real for them, but nobody else can see it. And they know logically it's not there, but again, they're living as if it is. Okay, so on the stage, when people can actually see, they're showing you that they're actually believing that there is something there. Okay, that's just as real. Okay, and on the stage, it's in that spirit of playfulness, and where it's a mix. It's a mix of science, but also of that social interaction. And the people on the stage, there's a lot of dynamics going on, because when people willingly, they volunteer to get up, and sometimes before people are actually asked to volunteer, there's a test that's done, that everybody gets to either put their hands together and find that they can't take them apart, or to do something. And it's a suggestibility test just to see, well, who are more susceptible, and they will pick the people who are most susceptible, only because they're quick and they have a better reaction. That's all. Does it mean that nobody else can be hypnotized? No, it doesn't. It just means that, well, if they were working with them, it would be a slower process. And all the stage hypnotist is looking to do is get a reaction, get people involved, and get a laugh. Okay. So in that spirit of kind of that social playfulness, that it actually increases their susceptibility, because they're getting up. Now they're getting up willingly to perform naturally. And in that willingness to perform, now it's easier for them to play along, to go along and enter into that state of hypnosis when they can actually kind of believe something that they're being told. Okay, and that's what's happening. It is entertaining. Now, some people say, well, should you be careful about going up? Absolutely, because there are some hypnotists on stage who will do anything to get a laugh. That is their That's their job. That is their role, is to get a laugh. Now, some will be very indiscriminate and actually kind of cause people to actually be embarrassed afterwards, okay? That they will make an idiot of them. But there are those who are very ethical and actually just keep it clean. They keep it like a family show. They do it without any of that, the excess, okay? And it's knowing the character of the hypnotist. So you get to make yourself. So always, look at their reviews, look at what other people have experienced, so that you can, so that you know, if you are going up, that you get the best experience from it. Okay. Now, people often ask, like, is it dangerous to go up on stage? Well, no, it's not. Because if you are susceptible, if you are willing to go into it, then you're going in, but you're always in control. Okay. Hypnosis does not mean that you're giving up any control whatsoever. In fact, in that state of hypnosis, you're always in control, because you will not do anything that would go against your own values or your own morals or your own integrity. Okay. Even to the point where people wonder, well, can you give up secrets? Can you tell things that you shouldn't? And the answer is no, because if you could, there'd be a lot of criminals doing this, because we'd be able to get your PIN number easy enough. Okay. Or we'd be able to get your bank account details and you wouldn't even know. Okay. But when it comes to those again, things that you hold secret, well, nobody can actually make you give them out. Okay. So it's a very safe experience. It's a safe environment, because it's already built in, because you're still in control no matter what. Okay. So you know, kind of a lot of therapists say, well, look, only 90% of people, you know, can be hypnotized. Okay. Well, that would be great if it was true, but it's not. Everybody has the ability to be hypnotized. And sometimes when people go to therapies and, you know, they find it hard, well, it's easy for the therapist to actually blame the client. Okay. But it's untrue, because the only reason somebody has a problem is because they're already in hypnosis. They're already hypnotized to believing that it's there, that it's hard, that it's bigger than them. Okay. So that's the proof in itself. So if a therapist can't, well, it's just they're either not experienced enough, or they just don't know what they're doing. It really is as simple as that. And it's when you know that, well, look, when you understand that that's all that's going on, that, well, while somebody is already deep in hypnosis, then you don't need to do very much. All you're doing is just reversing it, dehypnotizing, and then rehypnotizing for them, so that they can rehypnotize themselves to what they want, to the target, to the goal that they want. Okay? Because on stage, when all of this, everything is going on, they're working to a time frame. They have, what, say 40 minutes to an hour to actually do a show. Okay? Sometimes it's longer. But in that time frame, they have to get as much done as quickly as possible to get as many laughs as they can, to keep the interest of everybody. Okay? So does it take long to hypnotize somebody? No. Yeah, on the stage, they do what's called rapid inductions. They do it very quickly. And it's so that, again, they can move on to that next stage. And often happens, like, where you could have maybe 10 or 20 people sitting on chairs. And as they go through each one, like, they all just go into that state of hypnosis. Some won't. Some won't because, well, voluntarily getting up, and then they see that the lights are on, everybody's looking at them, and then they close up. And if that's the case, well, then they'll be just asked to leave quietly, because they don't want anyone to feel embarrassed. They just let them sit down, so that, you know, they don't just sit there kind of looking like they're doing nothing. Okay. So So it's for, in general, these stage hypnotists are very respectful of people. They're very aware of what's going on because they have to. They stay conscious of everybody that they're actually working with. And it's in dealing with them, that actually brings the show to a good, decent level. All right, where everyone can enjoy it, even the people on the stage. Okay, so people ask very often, like, what does it feel like to be hypnotized on a stage? Well, that being on the stage is the very same as being in a therapy room. Okay, what does it feel like? Well, it's just as simple as just closing your eyes. Okay, because when you close your eyes and you can just, well, you feel normal. That's what it's like in hypnosis. It's not anything. It's not like you're being whisked away to a different realm or some magical kind of place where now your mind is somebody else's. It is just as simple as just closing your eyes and just feeling comfortable. That's all. Sometimes you can relax. Sometimes people can't relax because they're so stressed, but you don't need to relax for hypnosis to be able to work. Okay, because the hypnosis is again in the mind, not in the physical body. Okay, but even in a therapy room, but very much like on stage, if the hypnotist kind of had a heart attack, would you be stuck in hypnosis? Would you be stuck kind of just believing all of these things? And the answer is no, because hypnosis, because it's a very natural process, that if anything happened, if something happened to the either the therapist or the hypnotist on the stage, well, after a few minutes, you would just naturally just open your eyes. Okay, that it's a very active process. That if there's a sudden silence, it would be like if you were just listening to music and suddenly it goes off. You'd actually kind of become very, very conscious. So there's no way that you can actually get stuck, because you just open your eyes and then you're back. And the great thing about hypnosis, whether it's on stage or in a therapy room, is that, well, you can always just open your eyes at any time. Or you can choose not to and just stay within the process. That choice is always there. Okay, so does anybody have any questions so far? I'll just have a drink. Well, does that make sense so far? And it's really to, kind of for you to even to understand all of this, just so that you can even enjoy it a bit more, to be able to see what's going on, to understand it at a better level of understanding yourself. Okay, because hypnosis is such a powerful resource. It's something that can transform someone's life. Okay, and it can transform on a stage, or it can transform it, in the therapy room. And there are therapists that are hypnotists who actually do it just on the street, who can actually kind of go up to somebody and just ask them, well, do you want to be hypnotized? And then actually bring them into that state. And again, it's very quick, but it's always done respectfully. Okay. And there's always that sense of safety. Now, there are some who don't, but the most important thing is that the person who is being hypnotized is always safe. We don't want them just falling on the ground, because that could be dangerous. We don't want them falling and hitting falling against a pole or a bin or something, or a chair. Okay, because our responsibility as therapists or as hypnotists is the safety of the person you're working with. Okay, and it means that always you're going to have that sense of respect. You're going to have that sense of being a cooperative part of the of the therapy or of the show. Okay. And in the power that hypnosis has is in just accessing, well, the truth of who you are. Because rather than actually kind of where a lot of people think that their problem is actually subconscious, a lot of the time the problem is actually just in their own intellect, their own logic. Because in seeing something that's not there is not a subconscious thing, it's just in logic, because the imagination is such a powerful part of our own intellect. And we know how powerful our imagination is, because it's that part of us that when we're reading a book that we can actually visualize, that we can actually almost like enter into it. In the same way, if somebody's watching a horror film, even though they know logically that it's not real, because there's actors and there's a script and it's like even on the television or on a screen. Okay, they know it's not real. But as soon as they start watching it, their imagination just kicks in and now creates it imaginatively. So much so that it's almost like that they're actually living in the film. Which is why, even though they know it's not real, it'll still frighten the life out of them. Okay? Because that imagination can create it as if. Now, in the same way, it doesn't have to be a horror film, it can be a comedy. But we know it's not real. But hey, we can still laugh. Or a sad film. We know it's not real, but it can still feel the effects. So our imagination is always going to be, again, there to create all of these experiences. Now, when it comes to having a problem, that's all we're doing. The imagination now is creating it. And the hypnosis is about now just bringing that back, to bringing it from being such a kind of so creative and back, bringing it back and saying, no, you don't need to do that. And it means then that you can actually deal then with whatever the problem was more realistically. And it's when we have that relief, because for a lot of times people have been fine with it and then it became a problem and now we can just undo it again. Okay, so in the very same way on the stage, where you can actually, when people get to see something that's not there, or they can actually, what they call the negative hallucination, where they can't see what's there, where they can actually believe that they've no shoes, or they believe that just, they may even kind of believe that they don't have any clothes on. Okay, even though they have. And it is that same imagination able to recreate whatever the suggestions are. Okay, but again, all because, and again, it's not that it's a power that somebody has, but when you understand the suggestibility that people have, again, particularly when they're willing, it means now that you can actually work with it. And while hypnosis is just a phenomenon, it's a natural phenomenon. Okay, to be, let's say, a therapist or to be a hypnotist, well, you learn a particular way of doing it. But hypnosis is there anyway. As I said, it's in advertising. Okay, but again, parents are great hypnotists. They're not qualified with an understanding, but this is how they rear children. Okay, using all sorts of techniques and kind of ways to kind of, again, to keep control over children. Not in any malicious way. But that we were told about the boogeyman, and we were told about how dangerous all the people that come and rob you or take you away. Okay, these are all just suggestions that children took seriously because they were able to imagine. But again, in politics, People believe what they're being told without actually being able to, needing to check. And this is where, again, this is that state of hypnosis, that state of being able to listen and being able to be, well, to be influenced. And again, it can be used for good and not so good. And when it comes to, you know, hypnosis is almost like kind of magic, but it's not magic. But when there's, you know, it can feel like magic when there is a transformation, when they're able to let go of something that they've been carrying for a long time. And even to the point where even stage hypnosis or the street hypnosis can actually give a gift to the participants where they can actually kind of feel more confident, or they can feel they can have a particular problem where they can now just let that go. And it's a nice gift to be able to give, because while they are at that, in that state of susceptibility and influence, well, isn't it nice to be able to just give them something now that's going to make their life better and to improve, well, improve their direction. But people think that because of the uncertainty, because it looks like magic, people think it's like superstition. People think it's, and they're actually afraid of it. And there's no need to be, because it is so different. Hypnosis is just natural. It was, the term hypnosis was just, it came into being kind of like over 100 years ago. Before that, it was still being used. It just didn't have a name for it. Doctors, again, like parents, doctors have huge hypnotic abilities. Because if a doctor says that, look, you're going to be sick, there's a good chance that you will. We've all heard of the placebo effect. Okay, is that hypnotic? Yeah. And all it does is it's an influence. Sometimes, again, a positive influence, sometimes not so positive. But again, it's being able to use them then, and that's where the skill of a therapist or a hypnotist really comes into their strengths. Because when it comes to even to superstitions, like, why do people believe in superstitions, especially in this modern age? Why do people believe in superstitions? And you know, like, I mean, there's loads of them. You know, from waving to magpies, okay, to being afraid of breaking a mirror, to being having to touch wood. And they're just like just a couple. But why are people so, well, why do they still believe in superstitions? And it's because deep down that we need to have some sense of control over the unpredictable. That's all. And the superstitions give us some sense of comfort. It's like when people want to touch wood. But why? And they don't know. They just, well, I always have. And it's uncomfortable for them if they don't touch wood. Again, because of that belief, because of that influence. Now, is it real? Of course not. But it's a small ritual that it almost feels like they have a shield against kind of, oh, something that could go wrong. And it's interesting that when most people don't actually know where these superstitions came from, why they're there. And just as an example, the reason people touch wood was because in the back in the olden days, that when people had, kind of had anything that they were worried about or thought about, or kind of like, the big problems, what they were told to do was go to a tree and touch it, because a tree was rooted in the ground, and it meant that all your bad luck would drain into the ground. Okay, that's what it was. That's where it came from. Did it work? Not really. Not physically. But because people believed, oh, well, if I do this, it actually worked. Again, like the placebo. Okay, it worked because they believed that it would work. Now, as time went on, well, then trees weren't so much available because, well, we started living in cities. And so what happened then was, well, what was the closest thing to a tree? Was a table, a wooden table, because that's what they had. So now, by actually touching a wooden table, it was like, oh, now I'm touching a tree. And now all of that bad luck or all of the horrible feelings now would dissipate. And did they? Yeah. But did they really? Nah. And then as time went on, and then we got into these big high-rise buildings, and then we still had tables. And even on the top of the building, people were still touching wood. And it made them feel so good because, I have that shield. But most people never realized that for that to work, remember that the tree was in the ground. So all of your bad luck would actually seep into the ground, and that'd be neutralized. But now when people touch wood, it's not even near the ground. And they still feel like it works. In fact, let's go one step further. The tables now, well, they're not wood. They're plastic. They're formica. They're all sorts of weird and wonderful chemical stuff, but they're not wood. And they still touch the table because it looks like wood. And even though it's not wood, it's not even near the ground, and they still feel, now I have that protection. Now, is that hypnosis? Oh, yeah. That's how powerful your own imagination is. It is hypnotic. And if you can do that, well, take it away from the tables, because I know kind of like that can make sense. But look at all of the other things that people, rabbit's foot. A rabbit's foot is supposed to be lucky. Is it? Well, not for the rabbit. And he had 4 of them. And it means that, look, and that belief, we think, look, looking at people on stage, they're kind of doing all sorts of weird things. And here we are touching tables, and here we are looking at rabbit's foot or any other little talismans or things that we think, oh no, this will bring me luck. It's the very same as a stage hypnosis. It's just you don't have an audience. Because when you look at all the things that you normally do just to keep yourself safe, to give yourself that shield from bad luck.
Fiachra, can I ask you something?
Yeah, Amanda.
That it really kicked in my head that I think I understood why I have all this sort of issue. When you said the parents can hypnotize, okay, I know they don't do in malicious way,
No.
but the fact that my parents were always talking to me in a miserable way, they always say how bad they are, how not well they are. So I think this is my issue because, I have an issue with my parents. I always depressed for them, especially because I'm abroad. And I wanted to ask you, how do I defend myself when they talk so bad, like today happen again, what happen every day, and I feel bad because I feel, as we said all the time, powerless. What do you do in this situation where someone is influencing you badly, because I never thought about that. But I think this is my issue, because I talk with my parents every single day, 2, 3 times, making sure they're fine. But it's always a very negative, sad conversation. Maybe that is bringing me down my energy all the time.
Yeah.
How do you stop to be, I don't know how to say in English, sabotaged from that, or,
Yeah. It's a really good question, because there's a lot of people in that situation, either from parents, either from bosses, or even their own kind of relationships. Okay. And you don't need to defend against it. Okay. And the reason you feel that you need to defend is because you see it as a threat. You see it as this kind of coming in on you. Okay. And it feels like that. But when someone is, again, saying how bad things are for them, they're making a statement. That's all. They're not blaming you. They're not putting it on you.
Yeah, but you would like to help it to make them better
Yeah.
because you love them,
Yeah. But that is the reflection of who you are. You want to make it better. But can you? No. It is not your place to impose your will on them. Because, as you know, that there's people who just, well, like being miserable. And not again, and not vindictively, not maliciously, but they just, well, that's what they do. And no matter what you do for them, they will always be complaining. They will always be giving out.
Exactly.
And it's when you know, well, that's not you. You're not there to control them. Nobody should control them. But what you're doing is that you're taking on that as a responsibility that actually isn't yours. Because if you were to take them from their home and put them into an amazing mansion with servants, and
This
it's
complaining.
Yeah, it's still complaining. Okay?
Okay.
So what can you do? What's enough for them to stop? Nothing.
Nothing, because I tried everything.
Yeah.
I'm trying.
Yeah. And that you're wanting to do the very best for them. Now, that is something you can be proud of. Because that's the reflection of who you are. That is the goodness that you have. Like you want to save them. You want to help them. You want to make them comfortable. But can you? No. In the same way, I know you're the type that would want to stop all the wars in the world. Okay? You want to stop all the starving children. You want to save everybody. But can you?
No, of course not.
And there is nothing that you can do. Even to save one person, you can't. But in the feeling of powerlessness that you feel because you can't, all you're doing now is adding now to the problem, because, well, you're going to end up sick. You're going to end up needing help.
Because it's terrible. Like when I do hypnosis, I feel so good. And then I talk with my parents so much often. It's like I go back again. It is driving me mad,
And the thing is that when you're speaking with them, and now you can stay up here at this higher level, knowing, look, it's not you can't. You want to, but you can't. Okay? And it would be unfair for you to take them from their home, put them into a mansion, and say, oh, well, they're still not happy. It's not that they're miserable people. It's not that they're not happy. It's just that's what they do. This is part of their culture or part of their life. This is what they've always done. So why would they change?
No, you're right. Totally.
Because it's almost like, kind of all you need to do, if you're speaking with them 3 times a day, just know 3 times a day, you're going to actually feel nothing.
No, I have to say really thank you about this class, because let me realize finally what is happening, because I never realized that.
Yeah.
It's probably because not in a malicious way, but by doing that, they are hypnotizing me, you know.
Yeah.
So
And the
thank you
thing
for
is,
that.
and you're willingly being hypnotized.
Yeah, probably because I'm so attached to them. Thank you for that. Because
Yeah.
at least finally I know what is going on. Because sometimes I think I'm getting crazy, like why there is always something going on. Thank you.
And you know, it gets to a point where you dread the call, where you dread speaking with them.
A lot, yeah.
And now that actually now makes you feel worse because
Exactly. Because
you're
sometimes
hurt.
I'm bad to them because I can't, the frustration is too
Yeah.
much. You're right,
Okay.
totally.
So when you know, well, tomorrow they're going to ring you 3 times. The first time, they're always going to be giving out, let's say, as normal. So now you don't have to take it personally. Now you can say, that's okay. And actually tell them how bad they are. Tell them how bad their situation is and add, because they're not going to matter. They're not going
Yeah,
to mind.
yeah, that's
Okay. Or at
interesting.
least
Thank
you're
you.
not then say, it's my fault. Because it's not, because you can't help. And then the second time they ring and you say, here they go again. Now you stay up there and say, okay. And you reinforce what they're saying. They're telling them, yeah, it's awful. It's horrible. Tell them how bad it is. Make it worse for them. Even stuff that they don't know, you tell them why it's worse.
Okay, thanks.
And then the third time, then you do it again. So that every time you're speaking with them, you're on their level, where you're, instead of actually feeling below and feeling kind of this horrible weight and burden being placed on you, that now you're actually playfully exaggerating.
That's interesting. Yeah, okay. And they might
Okay.
stop probably if I do that.
No.
No, they are enjoying after.
Yeah.
Sorry,
See?
guys. I don't want to take over. Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks.
But no, that's all you like. They will say, well, she's weird.
Exactly. Because
She's weird.
usually I try. I don't respond back in that way. Thank you for
No,
that. I try
because,
tomorrow.
yeah, give it a go. Try it out. See what it's like. Okay. Because when you're no longer taking it on, it means it goes nowhere. You don't need to defend against something that's actually not an attack. They're just talking.
Exactly.
If they knew that you were taking on this and kind of wondering kind of what a failure you are as a daughter, well, they'd probably say you deserve it because they don't want it that way. That's up to you. All they're doing is having a conversation their way.
Thank you for that. Seriously.
Okay.
See. Okay. Thanks.
And this is like, and not just you, this is our own traditions, our own family traditions and cultures, again, hypnotize us into having to do things that we don't normally want to do. And we do it all just to, to fit in. We do it to, because it's expected. But when you're doing something that's not you, that's not natural for you, that you don't want, well, you're being hypnotized. Okay, willingly, because you can make a choice. You're an adult now. We're all adults and we can make those choices. That's the whole point of being an adult. You can change your traditions, your responses. Okay, because you can. And it just makes it easy. It just makes it more fun for you. Because people look at superstitions and look at all these kind of hypnosis and say, look, well, are they actually harmful? Well, hypnosis, no, because it's only hypnosis is it's based on what we then do with it. Okay, some people believe that, well, I've been smoking for so long and I can't stop. Now, can they?
They can if they want. Yeah.
Cut their fingers off, they'll stop. Until they learn how to do it with their toes, because they're really ingenious that way. But then you cut off their toes and they'll find another way. Okay. But if somebody wants to stop, they will. Okay. If they want to. And Henry Ford, he was American. Oh, he started the Ford cars. Okay. He said that whether you believe you can or whether you believe you can't, you're right. Because that belief is not real. But if you believe you can't, even though it's not real, well, you're put on the brakes and you won't do. You won't be able to, you will find a way not to. But in the same way, if you believe you can, even though you can't, it's not real, but you will find a way to move it forward. Doesn't mean that you're going to be able to, but it means that you will be moving forward. Okay? Because that's what belief is. That's what your imagination creates. But they're not real. But when we believe that they're real, when we think that they're real, it's like the monsters under the bed or in the wardrobe. They're not real. But when we believe that they are, well, we live and act as if they are. And because we stopped believing in monsters a long time ago, except we haven't. We just converted those little monsters into the problems that we have now. They're not real. We believe that they are. And that's why being able to relearn, that, oh, actually, I am a grown-up. I don't need to believe in them. Now you can actually deal with them easier. You deal with whatever naturally. Okay, because even the superstitions, these all came from as they were almost like ancient survival tips to protect you. Touch the wood, say hello to the magpie. Why? Or if you saw the magpie twice, is that a second one? Is that okay? But even the people who do wave to them, they don't know why. They just say, well, it's just a nice thing to do. Really? What about seagulls? What if it's a black and white crow and actually it's not a magpie? What if it's a black magpie and you think it's a crow? What then? And none of them make sense, but hey, that's what the belief is. It doesn't have to be real as long as we believe it's real. As long as we believe that the rabbit's foot will protect me, now I don't have to worry. Now, what would happen if you had a rabbit's foot and you walked under a ladder? Ooh, there's one for you. That one about walking under ladders was because, well, when people were walking under ladders, well, at the time, there was no health and safety. And people who were on ladders were dropping stuff. So as a safety tip, it was oh, it's unlucky. Well, yes, it was, because you had something on your head. Something that made sense. Now, there's another superstition like, if you break a mirror, you'll have 7 years bad luck. Do you know where that came from? It was back in the time when mirrors were only coming into fashion. And only the wealthy people had mirrors. Only wealthy people. The commoners didn't. Okay, but when the common people when they became more available and the common people started to look, oh, have a mirror, oh, I feel so wealthy. Okay, but because we had so many children, what do children do? Oh, throw things around and probably end up breaking it. So what they did was, oh, if you break a mirror, 7 years bad luck. So it meant then, oh, the mirror was protected because now, oh, nobody wants to have 7 years bad luck. Now, did it bring 7 years bad luck? Of course not. Of course not. But the belief that it would, well, made them more careful around mirrors. As simple as that. Okay, but when we look at the history and where it came from, and then we can say, really, did I fall for that? Well, yeah, we did. Even as grown-ups, we fell for it. May as well still believe in Santa Claus. Okay, but we've outgrown all of that. And the same now when you understand it, now you can get to see it differently. And the same way with hypnosis, whether it's on stage, and the stage hypnosis is a great opportunity to be able to see what is possible. Because if someone can be made forget their name, and they can, or forget how to count, and they can you imagine, even in a therapy room, well, can you forget your problem? Yeah. Because if you can forget your problem, now you don't have it. Now you just get on and deal with life as without it. If people can be made believe that they have a cat on their lap, well, now can you be made believe that you have all of the resources and the strengths to be able to live your life naturally? Yeah. And if people can be influenced in a really good way on stage, now can they be influenced in a good way in a therapy room? Yeah. Because it's not, we're not enforcing, we're not planting, we're not putting in suggestions to make you better. We're just actually removing all of the rubbish that's holding you back. Because when you stop believing that, well, oh, I have a big problem, well, it means then that you can actually deal with whatever it is naturally. Same way you deal with everything else in your life. Okay. So is there any other questions? Because we're coming close to 8 o'clock now, and I just want to, I know it's time for bed for some of us. Have to get used to kind of, well, when I start going to the home, like, I mean, that probably lights out at about 9 o'clock. So I have to kind of, but not, maybe next year, not yet. All right. But look, hopefully in what we've gone through, look, it's just opened up your mind, just even to give you that different understanding of it. That hypnosis on stage is absolutely amazing and it's powerful, but it gives you a really good indication of what is possible with people. Unfortunately, like in the past, stage hypnosis was kind of, well, didn't make fools and idiots of people, and it got a bad reputation. Even therapists didn't want to be associated with stage hypnosis. But it's actually a really good experience when it's done properly, so that people can actually see what is possible. Okay, just make sure that it's an ethical show. If you're going, if you want to, kind of look at the reviews, because that's important. But if you're not going to go up, we'll just enjoy it, watching it and seeing, look, what people are actually able to do. Okay, so it's great to have you this evening. Thank you for coming along and for your questions as well, Amanda. And we'll go again. You will get notification for our next, which will be on the last Wednesday of next month. Okay, as normal. Okay, so look, again, we'll just start. We'll have the questions and answers as you know. So look, it's for you to get the most out of it. Look, you will get an email. If there's any particular subject that you want covered, please just let us know. We'd love to kind of, just because we want to do it for as many people as we can. Okay, we did this one tonight because a number of people had actually kind of suggested it, and we just wanted to kind of fill in all of those gaps. Okay, so look, have a great month. Okay, enjoy the summer. If we don't see you again, but look, it's been great having you, and look, I hope you got a lot from this. Okay, so listen, take care, keep in touch.